Hello everyone, my name is Jackson Valentine. I'd like to preface that I have strep throat right now, so if my voice sounds a little weird and quiet, that is why. But alright, let's get into this. Today we'll be presenting on Secure Shell Protocol, commonly known as SSH, and how it's configured and secured using OpenSSH on Linux. SSH is an essential tool for secure remote communication, allowing administrators to manage servers and devices safely for untrusted networks. In this presentation, I'll explain what SSH is, how it works, common security risks, and 3 specific hardening steps to make it more secure. By the end, you'll understand both theory and practical setup of OpenSSH, including how to verify and protect it. Alright, so let's go over the overview. We'll begin with the introduction to SSH and what makes it vital for secure communication. Next, we'll discuss how SSH works under the hood and why it's replaced with older insecure protocols like Telnet. Then I'll walk through the installation and verification process for OpenSSH on Linux. After that, we'll explore some common vulnerabilities, go over the detailed hardening recommendations, discuss general best practices, and look at real-world examples before finally closing with takeaways and references. Alright, so what is SSH? SSH stands for Secure Shell Protocol. Secure Shell, and is a network protocol designed for securely connect two systems over an untrusted network. It's used primarily for remote administration, secure file transfer, and encrypted tunneling. SSH operates over TCP port 22 by default and uses cryptographic algorithms to secure communication between the client and the server. Before SSH, administrators relied on tools like Telnet or RLogin, which transmitted data in plain text. SSH solved this by encrypting all traffic, ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of communications. Alright, so how SSH works. SSH uses a combination of asymmetric and symmetric encryption to secure data. When a client connects, it verifies the server's identity using a public key. After authentication, a symmetric encryption key is negotiated for faster data transfer. This hybrid encryption model balances performance with strong security. SSH can authenticate users via passwords or, more securely, with key pairs. In key-based authentication, users generate a private key on their device and place the matching public key on the server. This eliminates password guessing and is best practice for administrators. Alright, so SSH versus Telnet. Telnet was the standard for remote access before SSH, but it sent all information in plaintext, including passwords. That meant anyone monitoring the network traffic could intercept sensitive credentials. SSH not only encrypts communication, but also verifies the identity of both client and server, preventing man-in-the-middle attacks. Due to these features, SSH completely replaced Telnet in modern systems. This is the global standard for remote administration. So if you just looking here, Telnet sends the data in plaintext, SSH encrypts all communication, SSH provides authentication and integrity, and Telnet is just now completely obsolete. Alright, installing and configuring OpenSSH on Linux. To install OpenSSH, you simply run the commands sudo apt install openssh.server. After installation, the configuration file is located at /etc/ssh/sshd_config. This file defines security parameters like authentication methods, login banners, and allowed users. You can start and enable SSH and run automatically with sudo systemctl enable --now SSH. Once it's active, verify it's listening on port 22 using ssh-tuln grep22 or sudo netstat-tuln. This confirms that SSH is available for secure connections. Alright, verifying SSH configuration. Verifying SSH setup is a critical step. You can check the installed version using SSH-V, ensuring you're running on an up-to-date version of OpenSSH. To confirm the service is active, use systemctl status SSH or scan the host to see that port 22 is open. Then from another device, test the connection using SSH user at hostname. Finally, check firewall rules to ensure SSH connections are permitted and monitor logs at var/login/auth.log for login attempts or errors. Alright, common SSH security risks. Even though SSH is secure, misconfigurations can create vulnerabilities. Weak or reused passwords are one of the biggest risks. Allowing brute force attacks to succeed or allowing direct root logins is another risk. If root is compromised, the attacker has full control of the system. Outdated SSH versions or legacy ciphers can also leave the service open to exploits. Lastly, if failed login attempts are not monitored or restrictors, attackers can repeatedly attempt access undetected. So the main security risks are weak passwords and brute force attacks, allowing root login, outdated or depreciated ciphers, and unmonitoring the failed login attempts. Alright, let's get into hardening recommendations. To harden SSH, start by disabling root login in /etc/ssh/ssh_config. By setting permit root login no, this forces administrators to log in with a user account and then escalate privileges with sudo. Next, enforce key-based authentication and disable password logins by setting password authentication no. Restrict access to port 22 using a firewall by allowing only specific IP addresses. Finally, enforce modern ciphers and set idle timeouts. Client alive interval and client alive count max to automatically disconnect inactive sessions. Alright. Best practices for SSH management. Beyond basic hardening, maintaining SSH security requires constant management. Keep OpenSSH updated to the latest version to patch vulnerabilities. Monitor the authentication logs for failed login attempts or suspicious IPs. Use fail to ban to block IPs that attempt too many failed login attempts. Finally, rotate SSH keys periodically, especially when users leave an organization or change roles. Following these best practices ensures long-term security for your SSH environment. So go over them real quick again. Regularly update, monitor authentication logs, implement fail to ban or IP blocking, and rotate your SSH keys periodically. Alright, let's get into real-world applications. SSH is used in almost every modern IT environment. In enterprise settings, it's essential for remote server management and maintenance. In DevOps, SSH underpins CI/CD pipelines for developing code and managing containers. It also supports secure file transfers through SFTP and SCP. In cybersecurity, SSH allows analysts to securely connect to and investigate systems without exposing data. Its versatility makes it one of the most widely adopted and trusted protocols globally. So, real-world applications used in enterprise, remote management, foundation for DevOps, supports secure file transfer, and it's used in the cybersecurity and incident response. Right. To summarize, SSH provides encrypted authentication, remote access across insecure networks. OpenSSH is the most common implementation on Linux and serves as the foundation for secure system management. Disabling root login, enforced key-based authentication, and using firewalls greatly reduce attack risk. Finally, active monitoring and updates are essential to maintaining a hardened and trustworthy SSH service. And to end off the presentation here are all of my references I used in finding the information for this presentation. Bye.